Hey, y'all, what's good? I am one of your co-hosts here at the Playmakers Corner, Cody Stoffer,
You're just going to steal my what's good. I'm the other co-host, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V.
who does not own the trademark to the saying "What's good," but but anyways, we're back here with another top five list. This week we are talking top five safeties in the class of 2022 here in the beautiful Rocky Mountain state of Colorado, and here at number five on our top class of 22 safeties here in Colorado is right here in my neck of the woods over here in Highlands Ranch, playing at Valor Christian High School. Andrew Hale, the 6'1", 191-pound safety, who is an all-state honorable mention and first-team all-conference. I'm going to talk about some strengths that he has and why he's our number five safety. And I think that the first thing that really sold him as a safety for me was his versatility. He's a guy who can play that slot corner role. He plays that, normal safety, cover one, cover two, cover three. He can play all of those kind of roles, as well as sometimes being able to blitz off the edge and play within the box. He's a very physical safety. He's one of the hardest hitters on this list here at number five. He's just really good at finding that leverage and using quick burst and acceleration to really pop those players, and force some incompletions. You can see it on his film, no matter who he's playing, whether it's out-of-state competition or in-state competition. He's proven the same kind of versatility and, hard-hitting capability. I think that, he also shows pretty decent footwork, but really his burst, I think, is one of the things that makes him so versatile on the defensive side and what allows him to be used as a Swiss Army knife of sorts. It's just he's able to accelerate very fast and get to the ball. On that note, he takes pretty decent angles, I'd say, most of the time, especially in the run game. I think is where his angle finding works a bit more to his strength. And he proves not to be a liability whenever he is playing, that pass coverage. He will make the tackle before the big play does happen. And, I'd say on top of that, he's a pretty sound tackler when he's not, lowering his shoulder and getting some monster hits. He does a good job at wrapping up and bringing down ball carriers, by the waist or otherwise. Simon, are there any, eye-popping strengths that this playmaker has that I haven't really alluded to, other than obviously the big hitting is probably the number one thing that makes him such a strong contender on this list. But if there's not anything that I missed, you can go ahead and take over and explain some of his areas of improvement.
Yeah, no, for sure. So obviously have to agree. Personally, I love the big hitting ability, and for him to do this on this 5A level and be part of that just great Valor Christian defensive unit, that's pretty big because it's not like, he's hitting some softies out there. He's hitting some of the best in Colorado day in, day out. Plus, he does have 2 games where he played, I don't know if it was away, but he played out-of-state teams. So there you go. I just want to add these stats in here. He did have 74 total tackles, interception, forced fumble, fumble recovery. I believe those are regular season stats, I want to say. If not, one playoff game has went by, so there you go. Notable games to keep in mind here. He did get 10 total tackles in a 35-21 dub against Columbine, and then against Eastside Catholic, I want to say they're a West Coast team for sure. It's either Washington or California. But against them, the first off, they blew them out 41-0. But he did get an interception plus 8 total tackles in that game. And so, he does have a pretty solid year, especially as that safety in the back there. You got some dudes up front that are going to take up a lot of those stats naturally. But for him to do his thing right here, that's still pretty big. But let me go ahead and talk about some areas of improvement here. I think my biggest deal here, the thing that obviously separates him from number one, is just his ball skills. He just doesn't have great ball skills. He doesn't track it well. He's a hard hitter. He comes up. He's tough against the run. Valor uses him a couple different ways, but just looking throughout his film, not only obviously his highlight reel, but looking at games, there are just sometimes where, he just doesn't come up with the turnover, even though there are definitely opportunities for him to get them. I believe on his highlight film, there was one that, at least for me, that really stood out where, it was trips right, or well, to him, it would have looked like trips right. The two inside guys both ran out routes, and then the farthest outside guy ran, he's just running vertical. And so he's wedged between the two inside guys. The quarterback is obviously throwing that way. You could see his eyes. They're locked onto one of those. And I felt like he could have undercut that pass. He doesn't. He still gets the big hit, which is fine and all that. But I don't know. The other safeties on this list wouldn't make that mistake. And for him to be a senior doing that, that's just not great. You got to be able to undercut that. You got to be able to get positioning. And he just doesn't get great positioning on a daily basis, and a lot of that he covers up with big hits, which is fine, but on the next level, obviously you have better athletes, you have guys who are going to take advantage of that, and if you're out of position and you try to go for a big hit and you whiff, then it's off to the races and that's a touchdown, and so you can't have that. So that's probably the biggest thing here. Just doesn't have great ball skills. I'd like to see him improve his hands so he can catch from different angles. So say he's playing in cover 2 or a cover 1 overhead, and they throw it deep and it's 1-on-1. I'd like to believe that he would be able to come down with the ball. At this point, I don't think he can. So, you know what? There you go. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I think that's the thing he just needs to work on the most. Coverage skills as well. I think that's tied in naturally. He's not super exceptional there and doesn't anticipate those turnovers and passes as well as you like from your safety. But you'll figure that out as time goes on, and I think you just got to be coached up a little bit better there. So there you go. And then I think the last thing, this isn't the biggest deal. I think those first 2 points, if anything, you need to work on those if you're listening to this, Andrew Hale. Your ball skills and then anticipating, passes and whatnot. But this last thing, I just didn't see him in a lot of zone coverage opportunities, like deep, like third or half opportunities, which is probably because he's used in other ways, which is fine. And, I don't doubt that he could do it, but I just didn't see it. So there you go. There, Kodey, do you want to talk about his outlook here moving forward? Did you say you had an offer to Idaho right now?
Yeah, so his pinned tweet right now is that he's received an offer to play football at the University of Idaho. That was on May 6th, so that was way early this year. And I believe that he also has an offer to Wyoming. And on top of that, he was invited to the CU game against Arizona on October 16th. So, he has interest from some of the neighboring schools. Obviously, Idaho is the furthest one out there. But, that's a solid football program out there. And, I think any of these schools would be lucky to have him. But I think that, kind of his play style matches a bit more of that Idaho kind of culture, if that makes sense. But when you have a Swiss Army tool like Andrew Hale, who, is somebody who can contribute on special teams sooner than later with his hard-hitting ability and just the angles that he takes on tackles, you can't go wrong with that. But I think any of these schools would be lucky to have him. I just really like the fit here with Idaho. I do think that he is a redshirt guy at any of these schools, honestly, at least at the safety or nickel corner position. Because of what you said, he's just, going for a big hit makes you look aggressive in the pass game, but really he's a conservative, pass defender in the fact that he's not attacking the ball. Maybe he's afraid of, over pursuing it or making a mistake and it ends up going for a score. But you got to have some faith in yourself, especially when you're as athletic as Andrew here is. And hopefully it's a step that we can see him take in the rest of these playoffs. I think that there will be one round left if they're still in. And so, that's something to keep an eye on for the rest of his film for the rest of the year.
Yeah, there you go. Also, at number 5, having D1 offers. That should tell you about the rest of this list here, because that's our number 5 guy here. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds like it does it for number 5, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, I'll transition it. I got you. All right, so with that being said, that's pretty much a wrap on Andrew Hale right there. Pretty good player, obviously a very physical football player and whatnot, and I think this is just worth throwing this out there as well. We're not going to separate free safeties, box safeties, just like what we did with inside linebackers and what we will do with linemen. It's just safeties here. So there you go. That's what we're going to do just because it's going to be easier. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our next guy here at number 4. Coming up next.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Cody Stauffer, joined here by Simon Villanos, aka Coach V, and we are doing a top 5 senior safeties list. And number 5 was Andrew Hale, and coming in just ahead of him at number 4 is the safety out of Mesa Ridge, Cash Cheeks, the 6'5", 205-pound safety who runs about a 4.85 40-yard dash. And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, this guy sounds like an athletic freak, you're absolutely right, because he is. And that is honestly his biggest strength here, is that his frame allows you to kind of do a lot with him, and his speed is not a liability at the safety position, which is just really impressive at that size. 6'5", 205 pounds. I cannot stress this enough. I know that Simon is usually the frame and size guy, but this just blows me away. He is the tallest safety on this list. And, the fact that he fills out at 205 pounds is also pretty impressive. This allows for obvious versatility inside the box, which Mesa Ridge did use him for. He was able to play a linebacker / kind of like an outside linebacker, as well as in the box safety. But on top of that, he could play a deep third from like a middle linebacker position because A, his strides cover so much space, and B, he's so athletic and fast and knows the safety and linebacker spots so well following reading a play. And then at the safety position, he plays a cover 2, he plays a cover 3, he plays a cover 1. And, in some instances, he did play some man looks. So, just that versatility once again coming up really big here on this top 5 list. And something else that I really like here is, with his footwork, he doesn't waste any steps with, he doesn't always backpedal on every single play. You see a lot of safeties where their first step is always backwards. He does a good job of, keeping his feet in an athletic position to move forward during a run play or take a step back without wasting any steps. And so that was something that jumped out to me very early on in his film, and something that I still find to be impressive, and something that should not go unnoticed by college scouts, that, he's able to show that kind of maturity and that patience on, that third level of the defense. And, outside of that, obviously, when you have footwork that doesn't allow you to waste steps, it allows you to, track down plays pretty well and take good angles. I think kind of goes hand in hand with the maturity of that footwork. And he lives up to that. He takes great angles, whether he's trying to catch up to a play from behind, which he has done against some pretty fast players. I know that he made this one play against Fountain Fort Carson where he was in a bit of an outside linebacker spot, and it was a kind of like sweep to the opposite side, and he caught up to it. Obviously, testament to the rest of the Mesa Ridge defense for slowing down the sweep enough, but still, for him to catch it from behind on the backside of the play is just a testament to what an athletic freak this guy is. And, the possibilities that you have with him are kind of endless, I'd say, as far as just having a defensive tool to use. Simon, I don't want to take away everything, but, I'd say that I'll leave his biggest strength, in my opinion, to you, seeing as how he doubles as a wide receiver and a safety.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, I agree with what you just said there, but I'd have to say his biggest strength is, I think these two are probably tied together, but he has great ball skills, He's a pretty exceptional receiver. If he didn't make our safety list, he would probably be in contention for that receiving list, which, by the way, I'm just going to put this out there now in case we haven't said it before, which I don't think we have, but if you make it on the list one time, you're probably not going to make it again, unless you're like, I don't know, LeBron or Bo Jackson. So there you go.
Also, if you make the list, you're invited onto the show for an interview.
Yes, for an interview. So there you go. But like I was saying, though, he has great ball skills, and part of that is because he's a big dude at 6'5", 205. His catch radius is pretty insane. Like, he could get up there and just snag it. And, when you're trying to test this dude deep and he's 1-on-1, he's going to come down with it because he's a jump ball type of safety. And we don't say that every day, honestly. We've had safeties that we talked about last year who were more like, hard hitting, like Andrew Hale types for sure. Cash Cheeks. And I mean, it's rare to have a safety that's like 6'5", by the way. So there you go. But this dude Cash, I mean, he could get up there and he's gonna body people for that ball. And then as well, he just has a very good awareness of his surroundings. There was that pick 6 against Palmer Ridge that I really like. It's probably his best play of this entire year, one of his best plays of the entire year, where he just read it well, and he just undercut that dude, and then it was just off to the races, and he took it 100 yards to the house in that pretty close game that he had against Palmer Ridge. So there you go. I would say, his ball skills, his catch radius are definitely his biggest strengths. I mean, you can't teach 6'5", you just can't. And he just skies for it, and he's an aggressive safety at the point of catch too. So there you go. He's gonna get a hand or something in there and disrupt that pass for sure, just because he's a long dude, And they do use him sometimes coming off that edge from time to time. I definitely remember there was one time in his film where he was blitzing. I don't think it was off the edge, but he was just straight blitzing, and he like leaped and swatted the football as it was coming out. Like, it came out of the quarterback's hand.
That play was insane. That was a middle linebacker blitz.
Oh yeah, it was insane. And he was like there was a whole lineman in front of him or something like that too. So it wasn't like he was super close or anything. He just skied and swatted that backwards or forward, I guess.
You're the quarterback and you see that coming at you. Like, that was almost intercepted.
Yeah, it definitely could have been.
Just athletic freak flying down the field at you. Like, what do you even do? God, I'd love to have that kind of player on my defense.
Yeah, you could do a lot. And that's what Mesa Ridge did as well. They used him pretty well here. Not only just at safety, but at receiver as well. And so I want to talk about his stats here real quick. On the season, 92 total tackles, which is pretty good. That's a lot. That's a lot of tackles at the safety spot. He had 5 interceptions, including that pick 6 against Palmer Ridge. And then as a receiver, 31 receptions. I don't know why I didn't write down the receiving yards, but 31 receptions and 8 receiving touchdowns. His receiving film is fun to watch, so if you want to check that out, go for it. But I'm going to talk about his notable games here before I talk about some areas of improvement and why he's number 4. But notable games, obviously that Palmer Ridge game at the beginning of the season where they only lost 27-30. That pick 6 pretty much brought this game a lot closer than it meant to be in that fourth quarter and gave Mesa Ridge an opportunity to win this game. But in that game, he had 12 total tackles in that pick 6. And then against Fountain Fort Carson, which Kodey, you and Mason were able to go to, he had 14 total tackles and an interception. We know what Fountain Fort... Wait, what?
He was everywhere.
Yeah, no, he was doing everything. And we know what Fountain Fort Carson is. Like, they're talented. They have skill players everywhere and athletes everywhere. And so that's not an easy thing to do. Lost the game 0-7, but there you go. And then really early on, I think this was the first game of the season against Denver South, Joseph Capra, the Caldwell, all them boys. They beat them 31-28. And in that game, he had 7 total tackles, 2 tackles for losses, and an interception. He picked off Capra in that one. Obviously, when they played them again, it wasn't the same score, no. But they lost by 3 instead of beating Denver South by 3 in that one. And so there you go. I mean, he's done it against some very quality players on the 4A level. And so, I mean, if you don't believe that he's a great safety, if you don't believe us saying that he's a great safety, stats don't lie, numbers don't lie. So there you go. But Kodey, do you mind if I talk about areas of improvements here?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, bet. I think the thing I'm probably the most concerned about is just his agility and ability to change directions. There are some guys on here that definitely have like more fluid hips. Andrew Hale arguably has more fluid hips than Cash, and I understand he's like 6'5", 205, but his change of direction is just not the fastest. As a safety, I mean, he'll be fine for the most part because he does have pretty solid top end speed. He's tall as well, which allows him to cover a lot of the field. But in short spaces, it definitely shows sometimes that he's just not able to like adjust as quickly as some other guys here. So there you go. The second thing, and that's definitely the most important thing I would say. Second most important thing here that I like to see him work on, I like to see him against the run more, be a little bit of a bigger presence. I mean, like, he's in there and he's making tackles, but I'd like to see him, like, blow up a play, like go lay somebody out. He's 6'5", 205, and he's arguably like the least hardest hitting guy on this list, I would say. Arguably the least hardest hitter on this team, on this list. And even in some honorable mentions, there's some guys that could challenge him there. And so working on that explosiveness, you can never go wrong with that. Like to see him, just knock some guys around and all that. So there you go. And then lastly, I mean, I don't think this is stopping him from getting an offer, or I guess more offers, but I would like to see him continue to work on his technique. And man, if he can be like one of those guys that is super solid in 101 and could cover those receivers on the outside, like that would be awesome. Ideally, he could be one of those guys at 6'5" who could potentially play a little bit of corner on like the D2, lower D2 levels, maybe lower FCS levels, and being 6'5" and all that, he could definitely be one of those problems out there if he figures out how to consistently jam receivers at the line. And that's huge, and that would help out his stock a lot. So there you go. But Kodey, do you have anything you want to add on before you go ahead and hop into Outlook here?
Yeah, as far as areas of improvement, I gotta agree with everything that you said. And I think that, the lack of fluidity in hips kind of affects his ability to play that sideline kind of zone. I didn't see too much of that in his film, and that's a little bit of a concern that you can't have a safety that can help out with some corners over on the sideline. So, but another reason may be that he wasn't really asked to do that because he did have another great, piece of a secondary in front of him with Desmond Burton out there at that cornerback position, which, it's not an area of improvement so much as it is just something to note that he did have a good cornerback in front of him. And on top of that, as far as man coverage goes, kind of building off of what Simon said, I didn't see him have to really defend double moves. I don't know the skill level of a lot of slot receivers, or didn't see a lot of film of slot receivers going against him in man. But, I don't know how he'd be able to defend, a head shake from a guy like Costanzo at wide receiver from Palmer Ridge. I didn't get to see any of that man-on-man coverage if that ever happened, or, what his plan is with, kind of the more brick-shaped hips that he has. And also, I just want to elaborate on Simon's point that, yeah, there are some guys on the honorable mention list that can hit harder than him. And that's kind of inexcusable when you're 6'5", 205 pounds, honestly. But talking about, his future and kind of what that looks like, from what I can tell, it seems like he's been invited out to a couple of CU games, and that CU football recruiting is kind of, keeping tabs on him. And I think he's also been offered by CSU Pueblo. Simon, do you know anything that I don't know, or do you see anything that I can't really see from his Twitter page, but that's kind of all I can see.
I'm pretty sure he's offered by Northern State, isn't he? Up in North Dakota or South Dakota. It's one of the Dakotas. It was like a while back.
Oh, I see that now. I see the pictures at least.
So he has that offer. They're not a bad program. I'm pretty sure they're D2, but they're not a bad program. Also, I think this is an offer, or not an offer, sorry. It's he visited BYU. He went to one of their what is it called? Training camps. Right?
Okay, yeah, I see that picture as well now too. You have to dig really far back for some of these because all the senior year film is out. Yeah.
So there you go. But he definitely, he has multiple offers. In my opinion, I think if you're basically going off of size alone, well, not just size alone, but, his skill set plus his size at 6'5", 205, you don't see that every day. And I think it would, some D1s would look at that and be like, okay, maybe, let's just offer him and see what we could mold him into, because he has a lot of potential here, Like I said, when he's playing that that deep mid zone, though, he just does really well. If it's a jump ball, he's going to come down with it. He positions himself well. A lot of that is because of his work at wide receiver, which he's exceptional at as well. And so if you need like an emergency, there you go. But I think he's someone that you definitely kind of take a flyer on and be like, hey, either a preferred walk-on to an FBS, or let me offer you real quick here, because I think he is kind of one of those dudes, and he was part of a pretty solid Mesa Ridge team that just had a lot of athletes, And obviously, whenever you're on a team that has a lot of athletes, it means something when you're one of the top ones on that squad, and that's who he is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you're like CU, you have to try and keep this talent in state, and I'd be really surprised if BYU doesn't pull the trigger and give this guy an offer either. Really, if he's already on their radar, it's just, like you said, it's so hard to say no to this size and athleticism.
Yeah, and BYU's going to the Big 12, right? So they're going to need all the freak athletes you need to go ahead and compete in that conference, which is a level above where they were at before. Was it Independent or Mountain West?
I don't recall, but Power 5 is definitely a step up.
Yeah, so there you go. But, he's super underrated, in my opinion, here. I feel like more people would notice a 6'5", 205-pound safety, guy that's built just like a beast and all that, and has great skills, and he's not just like somebody who could hit hard. Nothing against that, but he could actually go up and get it and go deflect the ball, and he's shown his skills over and over again. He's shown that he's more than just his body type, which is big. And I feel like that is definitely enough to separate him as, these next couple weeks keep going. And by the way, we are recording this on November 16th. So for all we know, maybe he's already offered by a bunch of D1s by then, but a lot could still happen with a month or two left in this calendar year moving forward and whatnot. A lot could happen, especially when, seasons kind of start to calm down on the high school level, on the college level, and you really just look at it and you're just like, all right, I'm a college looking for an athlete, looking for a freak athlete out here. What do we got? He stands above a lot of these dudes here. And, Colorado is also low-key known for, at least these last 2 years, for putting out really good safeties. And, he's the tallest one we have done a breakdown on so far. We have some taller guys here coming up, but they're not as big as Cash, though. So, all right, so that'll basically be it on Cash Cheeks. Very underrated. He's going to be a steal for anybody here. I don't think he should settle for JUCO yet, but if he does do JUCO, he'll be very good, and he should be getting a lot of these same D1 looks. So there you go. But we're going to keep this thing moving, and we're going to go ahead and talk about our number 3 guy in the state. He's on the 5A level, so we're going back to 5A here at number 3. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here before we talk about him.
Playmakers Corner, top 5 safeties, class of 2022. Your hosts, Coach V and Cody Stoffer, talking number 3, Malik Singleton, the safety out of Grandview. I believe he's a 2-year starter, and there is a lot to like about this guy, and there's even some debate on him being, number 2 or 3, the 2 and 3 spot, kind of interchangeable, to a degree, depending on what you're looking for as a program recruiting a safety here. And if you're looking for a guy who has incredible instincts and ball skills and can play man up, then Malik Singleton is your guy here at our number 3 spot. He is one of the better man up, probably second best man coverage safety here. He's somebody who I could easily trust to play cornerback, especially that nickel or slot cornerback routinely, and also make plays. I think that his instincts, they're the hardest thing to miss on his film, because he knows where the ball is going sometimes before the quarterback knows where the ball is going. And you can see just the way he's able to bait quarterbacks and the way that he reads their eyes, as well as just the entire play. He does a great job of recognizing routes as they're being ran, or, reading kind of what the pass play could be based off of what the tight ends or running backs are doing. He just has great vision for the field and just a very high football IQ that translates into a lot of plays that he's able to make. And on top of that, he has the athleticism and the quick burst ability to live up to the second half of those plays and to, close them out by converting those, what a lot of other safeties might have as big hits or tipped passes. They're almost always interceptions here for Malik Singleton. And for the passes that may have just been completed passes, those are the ones that he ends up tipping or getting out of the way, because he's just so athletic. He throws his body around just, in a very football, exciting, Tasmanian kind of way. And, I think that he's a must-have player for any program that's looking for a guy that can take any interception back to the house on any single play. He just has a great feel for the field, and his awareness of just routes that are happening around him is just eye-popping, really, on this level of football. It's something that can easily carry over to that D1 level. And those reactionary hands, he just gets them up so fast, and he's just so good at baiting quarterbacks into doing exactly what he wants him to. Simon, I know that you have some numbers pulled up to back up these claims here for Malik Singleton.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what? I just wanted to back what you had to say as well. Honestly, Malik Singleton is probably one of the most, just overall fundamentally sound players in the state. And, at the safety spot, like you said, he could have been, interchanged with number 2 here. There's definitely, I would say, maybe a little bit of a, I would say a little bit of a, I guess, an argument for number 1 as well. This top 3 is pretty close, not gonna lie. But, I would say Singleton here, he's just a very clean player, makes very good tackles, takes very good angles. As a ball player, as someone at safety, he's just a ball player with very good ball skills. If the football's coming anywhere in his direction, he's gonna get a hand on it or snag it. One of the two. And, that's never a good thing. And he's part of this elite Grandview secondary here who, they've been giving a lot of teams some trouble, throughout this year. And so with that being said, let me talk about his stats here. So on the year, by the way, like I said, as of November 16th, he has 74 total tackles, 5 interceptions. Some notable games I want to talk about here. Obviously, that first game against Pomona, where they won 30-29 in that thriller. He had 15 total tackles, 1 interception in that game. Against Mountain Vista, arguably his best statistical game. And, on paper, he was on top of it. He Oh my gosh, he embarrassed this young Mountain Vista team and showed why he's the vet and they're the freshmen over there. Because he had 8 total tackles, 2 interceptions. Both of these interceptions were just great, like, reads. I would say I think one of them was off of a tip as well, and so that's just him making a play there. He also had a pass deflection in that game, so there you go. And then against Cherry Creek, they lost 13-21, but he did have 14 total tackles, including that fourth quarter pick 6 that, brought this game to a 1-score game. I'm pretty sure it was a 1-score game early in that fourth quarter. And so, he's balled out against some of the best in the state, getting it done as a, tackler against the run, getting it done as a cover guy. And, like you said, Kodey, he's used in a lot of different ways as well, just because he is just fundamentally sound all over. But with that being said, Kodey, do you mind if I talk about some areas of improvement here?
Yeah, sure thing. I just want to add on that in that Mountain Vista game, he lit up one of those receivers. I couldn't tell if it was Ja'Kai Mack, the freshman, or if it was Nick Stone, both of whom are phenomenal receivers, and one who's going to continue to do it for a long time, and the other one who's in consideration for our top 5 senior list. Whichever one it was, he blew them up too. So,
yeah, like I said, arguably his best game of the year, that Mountain Vista game. But let me go ahead and talk about areas of improvement / some reasons why he isn't 1 or 2. I would say as a tackler, I think there are definitely times he's a little passive in the run game. Doesn't play it as aggressive as he could. There are definitely some times where he kind of waits for the running back to come to him, and then he's like the security blanket, and he gets in there. And so I'd just like to see him be a little bit more decisive and, go ahead and chop that tree down. Go ahead and lay him out. Don't let him run 5 or 10 yards there, because there are some times he does of that. And you could tell, and I think part of it too is because he doesn't want to get blocked either, and so he'd rather like just wait and slip pass than dive straight in there. And I think part of that as well is because he's not like the heaviest player. He's a little light. He's like 6 foot 170. I'm not sure how accurate that 170 is, to be completely honest with you. He might be a little bit heavier.
I could
maybe
see 175.
Yeah, but still a little light here. Definitely the lightest on this list. Even amongst our honorable mentions as well, he's pretty light. And so maybe that's one of the reasons why he's not gonna wedge himself between 2 linemen and go get somebody and play that game aggressively, But yeah, so there you go. I mean, I think he's gonna put on some weight here. Don't get too heavy. I think 180, 185 is a good spot to be at, arguably for the rest of your career. Honestly, I was nitpicking a lot here with Malik. He does a lot of things perfectly, to be completely honest with you, but these are just some things that, I saw that I'm like, yeah, maybe he could be a little bit better here. Maybe you could turn one of these things into an elite skill, which I feel like he can do. So there you go. But Kodey, what do you think about that before we talk outlook here?
I mean, I got to agree with everything that you said. He's definitely an ankle biter kind of tackler is the first area of improvement that I wrote down. And you can attribute that to size, but he's definitely kind of diving at feet or ankles. And some of these tackles that he gets on this level, he's not going to get on the next level, to say the least. I think that guys are going to do calf raises on the next level and should be able to shake some of these Malik Singleton tackles. But, there's a lot worse areas of improvement to have. So, I'm not too upset about it, obviously. And I also want to mention that on his sizes, he could be a next level cornerback too. I really think he's that good and versatile at man coverage. So, that it's not a deal breaker is the easiest way to say it. And, with his playmaking ability on the defensive side of the ball and the ability to score on defense, it's hard to say no to this guy as far as a recruit goes.
Yeah, he's not bad in man-to-man. I think he's good. I just like to see him take it to another level here. So, there you go. But Cody, do you want to? He's already committed here, so do you want to tell us where he's committed to and where you see him kind of landing here moving forward when he's going to get some playing time and all that, in your opinion?
Wild Wyoming, baby. He's playing for the Cowboys. He's committed to the Cowboys. He's been committed for a minute. I think June 28th is when that says, right, Simon?
I don't have it pulled up.
Oh, okay. I have it pulled up. June 28th is what that says, and that's kind of wild. That's kind of wild, But I definitely think that he's a guy who might have a very similar kind of ascension to starting as a top 5 guy from last year in Zaire Jackson. He's a guy who hasn't really gotten a whole lot of time, but has flashed, in camps and stuff, and certainly has the attention of these Wyoming coaches. And so I can kind of see, a really great secondary out there in Wyoming between Malik Singleton and Zaire Jackson here in about 2 years, honestly. And I think Malik has a little bit more of an advantage because he's a bit more versatile of a guy. So I think he might get out there a little bit sooner than Zaire might have. But, I see them hitting the field for about the same amount of time as far as, when they hit the field and the amount that they hit the field to, as well as just how they're kind of used. Simon, what do you think of that kind of outlook?
Wait, what do you mean
comparison?
The same time? Like, what you mean by that?
Like they'll be used on the field the same amount, and maybe Zaire has to wait a little bit longer, but Malik, because of his versatility, gets out there a little bit sooner. But they'll be playing as teammates for the same amount of time.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I think obviously a red shirt is probably in his future here, but I think that's fine. I feel like every football player should probably take a red shirt unless they're a quarterback, but I don't know. I think, yeah, go ahead and red shirt, but like you said, Cody, he's just very he's very versatile. He could be moved a couple different ways here, so his playing time and whatever that timeline looks like is definitely accelerated because he could do a lot of different things here. So there you go. I agree with what you have to say. So probably after the red shirt, I would expect him to, get some specialty minutes there at least, right?
Oh yeah.
Whether it's kick return, yeah, like kickoff, punt, all that stuff. Like I could see that, or returning it, I'm sure, but I would probably say kickoff, punt, So definitely see that, and then from there, you just gotta keep at it, and you never know. One day they might be like, hey, you know what? I'm just sick of the safety we have right now. Let's go ahead and plug you in because I don't want to see this other guy play as much anymore. And there you go. And that's that. It happens. It really does. I feel like I made it sound really simple there. But, sometimes coaches are just like, hey, I don't like what I'm seeing. And I just need to see something different and just put somebody else there because I'm sick of seeing this dude play. Shout out to Coach Johnson on TikTok. That sounds like something that he would say, right, Cody? But
yeah,
giving him the Donovan treatment. Yeah, something like that. But okay, it's probably time to go ahead and move on here. Malik Singleton, fundamentally sound for the most part. Very productive. He's going to be a stud on the next level because he can do all of those things. He's Mr. Do-It-All. So there you go, Malik Singleton. But coming up next, we're going to talk about our number 2 guy here. Like we said, it was really close. Really could have went either way, to be honest with you. But we'll talk about him here next. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. We're talking about safeties here. This is our top 5 list for the class of 22 here in the Box State here in Colorado. And at number 2, we're going to go to the 3A level and talk about Lutheran's very own Bryce Johnson, the 6'3", 200-pound safety. This dude is built. I gotta tell you that. I gotta watch him live, and this dude is legitimately 6'3", 200. And, that's one of his strengths. He just has a very good, like a D1 frame at 6'3", 200 playing safety, and just great raw athleticism. These are some of his numbers that he listed. And, you could probably take off a little bit here if you really want to, but dude's still a stud either way. His listed 40 is a 4.57. I believe it. Looking at his film and watching him play football live too, I could definitely believe the 4.5, 4.6 kind of vibe there. So there you go. And then he also has a 34-inch vertical, which is pretty good for someone who's 6'3" already. So there you go. I think those things already separate him naturally from a lot of guys, not just on this list, but in the state and in the country. How many times do you see a 6'3", 200-pound safety who can move like that and jump like that? The answer is you just don't. And so that alone is definitely attractive enough to, gain some college offers if you're a little bit of a baller here, which he is. And so I think that would be his best, trait here as a safety. His second best trait is that this dude is just tough, man. He's tough against the run. He is the definition of an enforcer in the pass game. Like, he hits hard and with intention. There's some plays where he's dropping back and the the quarterback's trying to fit it into the into the window here between the corner and Bryce Johnson here. And Bryce, he just comes in and just absolutely nails receivers over and over and over again. You see it in his senior film. You definitely see it in his junior film, probably a little bit more, to be honest with you. Just him just hammering these receivers and tight ends and whoever, because this dude is exceptional at that. He is somebody to be feared over the middle. Like, you don't want that smoke, probably. But he's a hard hitter. He's as hard hitting as they come here. He's probably, arguably the hardest hitter on here, along with Andrew Hale, probably. He's definitely up there for sure. Only thing that's wrong with that, is that he doesn't always go up for the ball. And there are some times where, you could tell he just wants to make a point and just lay a dude out. And so he would do that. But, that's not a bad thing either. He still stops the play. The play ends regardless. It's just not, a turnover all the time. So there you go. But speaking of turnovers, he does have some pretty good ball skills, I mentioned his receiving film earlier, and, he's a pretty solid receiver if you look at his senior film. It's entertaining. Like, this dude goes up and he gets it. And as a receiver, too, he runs some pretty nice routes there. So I'm just going to throw that out there. So he knows all about getting leverage and all of that, because he does that consistently. He cuts off receivers. He undercuts them. He gets himself in the right positions a lot of the time here to just go make a play, whether he's knocking somebody out or going ahead and, just intercepting it. At the very worst, he contests the ball, and that's that, but he just does a very good job there. He's an aggressive player, and you love to see that there. Before I pass it off to Kodey here, I do want to go over his stats real quick here. So on the senior season, he has 53 total tackles, 12 tackles for losses, and only 2 interceptions. And some notable games to look out here, or if you want to look at Bryce Johnson, you would probably look at these games. I would say this year, I guess not to their credit, but they played a lot of easy teams. Denver North is probably the toughest team, and they just barely missed the playoffs. So there you go. At least as far as regular season go. But against Denver North, he had 3 tackles, 2 tackles for losses, and an interception. Me and Mason were at that game. And then actually last year against Durango, the defending champs, they lost to them 47-6. But in that game, he had 11 total tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass deflection against a pretty tough like Durango offense and Durango team in general. And so for him to do all that is definitely big time and is why he is going D1. But Kodey, do you have anything else you want to add on to this before you talk about areas of improvement?
I just really like how Bryce here plays, a pretty good edge rusher spot. And I wanted to note just how strong he looks going against literal tackles. At 6'3", 200 pounds, it looks like he can almost double as an edge rusher. Like, really, really. And that's insane to see from a guy who can play the pass pretty well. You know what I mean? Like, and show the ball skills that he has. For him to be doing that on multiple levels of the field is why he earned our number 2 spot. And Simon, you and I talked about this before recording this and while deciding the list that, we wanted to show consistency in, our rankings here, and versatility ends up ruling supreme. It decided our 5 spot and it decided our 2 spot here, with Bryce Johnson being able to play an in the box kind of role, as well as even an edge rusher kind of role, and outside linebacker, as well as a true safety who, plays kind of a variety of zone coverages. And, I think that his footwork is, his biggest asset as far as, his versatility goes. There's one play in particular where he's at that kind of edge spot and it looks like he's going to come on a blitz, but then he falls back a little bit, prepared to play like a true mid-zone, and then he crashes down on this bobbled swing pass because he just reacts and reads and goes through all of his reads so well and has, the athleticism and footwork to carry those things out. So that's what that is what blew me away about Bryce Johnson and why he's our number 2 on the list instead of number 3, because we discussed that it could go back and forth a little bit here, especially at these 1 through 3 spots. And as far as areas of improvement, it's kind of nitpicky for sure. There's just not a ton of man coverage film, which isn't to say that he can't. There just isn't a lot of film of it. So, there's a lot of other things that you could be mad about. But when you have an inside the box safety like that who can double and just play, like 5 different positions at any time, you can overlook some things like a lack of man coverage. Isn't that right, Simon?
Yeah, no, for sure. That's actually the only thing I really have on here. He plays mostly zone. I think it's important to keep that in mind. A lot of cover 2, I would say a little bit of cover 1, but I would say a lot of cover 2 here where he's just covering half the field. And that's fine. He makes plays from there, but there's something to be said about someone who doesn't really play in man. You don't know where their skills are at,
Yeah, for sure.
So
do you want to take us through his outlook here, Simon?
Yeah, I will. What was that?
I said, what's the news on that front?
So I actually heard about Bryce Johnson a couple months ago, probably in early July, like really early July, near end of June, from from a source that I have inside Lutheran. Well, related inside Lutheran, same thing. Bryce, you'll probably figure this out eventually. But she told me about this kid, and he was like, yeah, he's going to CSU, like he's the real deal. And I'm like, oh. And I thought at first it was CSU Pueblo, but it's actually CSU. They offered him, he committed, and so he will be playing for Steve Adazio and that tough defense, who get yet another high-rated player here in Colorado, a number 2 rated player here in Colorado. Shout out to Cooper Walton, that doesn't happen every day. If I had a dime for every time that happened, I'd have 2, but that's still pretty crazy, right? so I'm keeping that in. So there you go. But you heard it here first, you didn't hear it here first. That's obvious. But Bryce Johnson, he's going to CSU. He's going to be a part of that, I wouldn't say elite, but very good defense over there with a very good defensive coach who I probably trust a lot more to figure out, where they want him to play, because he is playing safety here, but I could definitely see a scenario if maybe they move him down to linebacker, like middle linebacker or something like that, or outside linebacker, because he does have the size at 6'3", 200. Like I said, that's a D1 frame there, and not everyone has it. So that's a pretty big deal. And when you have like a 6'3", 200-pound athlete, there's a lot of different positions he could play and that you could probably develop him into if you have the vision for it, which I believe Steve Adazio at least has the defensive vision for that. And so, honestly, I don't know what their safety / DB or whatever situation looks like up there. But I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to take a redshirt year. And then maybe another one. It's possible after his redshirt year, he could see some snaps on special teams. I think he'd be perfect on kickoff and whatnot as a gunner potentially. That would be crazy. Not going to lie. That'd be fun to watch. But other than that, I think consistently on the defensive side of the ball, I could probably see him getting in there after his redshirt year and then after his second year there. So that would make him a redshirt sophomore or junior, just about getting consistent snaps there. I mean, they could really turn this kid into anything over there. He could be an absolute weapon and steal for CSU because he could have got some other D1 offers as well. But, I respect the decision, staying in state, playing for CSU, and being one of the best in the state to go ahead and stay and do that,
Yeah, for sure. That recruiting class for CSU is looking pretty good. Really hope that Adazio could actually hold on to this one. But anyways,
yeah,
I really like Bryce Johnson's odds here. So, I'm just jumping in. I didn't wait for no segue this time, but I like Bryce Johnson's chances of, being a special teams contributor sooner rather than later, just because, his frame, size, and speed. It's freakish. It really is. And, somebody that, at least on special teams, like you said, he could be a gunner and ruin someone's, college career if he makes contact with them going a million miles an hour. But, as far as when he gets on that defense, he's just going to be such a versatile piece that I think Adazio is going to be super excited to have. And, I bet, there's going to see instances where we see Cooper Walton and Bryce Johnson right next to each other on the field at the same time, potentially. And, that's something really exciting that, two of our number 2 seniors on their respective lists can look forward to, and blowing it up and tearing it up and being a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers on that Mountain West level.
Yeah. And hey, if Cooper Walton is Bobby Wagner, Bryce Johnson is Cam Chancellor. So there you go.
Sheesh.
But, the
okay.
right version. But yeah, so
well, okay.
that goes without saying. But yeah. So I'm just saying I like it here. I see a lot of Cam Chancellor low key in Bryce Johnson. I'm just gonna say that. He could still put on some muscle. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to 210, 215, and he's that's just his playing weight now at safety, because even now, they listed him at 6'3", 200. I could probably believe it, but also I could also believe him maybe putting on a couple more pounds too, because he's still lean enough,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he
so
might be bigger than 200 as it stands now. But
playing weight?
Right now. Right now.
Yeah.
205. So.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, we might have to ask that someday, but there you go. So,
well, maybe he can come on the show and answer for himself. Once again, this is an invite to anybody to come onto the show if you're on one of these lists.
Yeah. Before we move on, shout out to my sources putting me on to Bryce Johnson before this senior year. But coming up next, we're going to talk about our number 1 guy and also some honorable mentions. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. we're here at number 1, but per usual, you already know we finna talk about these honorable mentions real quick, give them some love, because there are definitely a couple guys here that were right there fighting for that number 5 spot, or just a spot on this list, but didn't make it. We are going to go ahead and do film breakdowns of all of these players eventually, probably before all these guys graduate is the goal here. And so I'm going to go ahead and start off on the 2A level. There were 2 players here that really stood out. Both have won Player of the Week at least once, I want to say, and that is Severance's Caden Donovan and then University's Caden Padilla. Caden Donovan, he's a stud. He's somebody who probably hits just as hard as Andrew Hale, has better ball skills, but his footwork is definitely, it needs some work, and he does play on the 2A level. And so you do have some quarterbacks who are going to make worse mistakes than, on higher levels where they pass the ball more. So, do what you want with that. But he was still, regardless, pretty close to making that number 5 spot, so you should be proud of that. Caden Padilla, he is the guy who does it on both sides of the ball. He's an excellent receiver as well, so maybe he makes maybe he makes an appearance there, but for now we're talking about safeties. He's a solid safety out of University. He's one of the reasons why they made the little playoff run they did. And then moving on to the 3A level, I have Jacob Lawver from Holy Family. Honestly, he has a lot of film at running back, at least this year. And so that's partially why, we didn't go with him. But he's a fantastic athlete. And so we're definitely going to want to take a closer look at him. And then moving on here to the 4A level, we have Bridger Sutherland from Silver Creek. And then we have hold up. Rocky Mountain's 5A. Yeah, so, and then moving on to 5A, we have Cade Schroeder from Rocky Mountain. Didn't upload his film, Cody says. So, there you go.
From senior year.
Yeah, from his senior year. At least, right now when we're doing this, he didn't. So, there you go. And then we have Demario Williams from Rangeview, and then Tyler Tolbert from Cherry Creek. All guys who just barely missed the list. And, at another day, we're going to talk about why, they just barely missed it there. Because I do want to talk about the number 1 safety here. Okay, I'm going to throw this in there as well. Grant Page, as well, is on our honorable mentions. Obviously, he got hurt. Yeah, he played 5 games. Hoping he's, doing well in his rehab and whatnot. He knows we have a lot of love for him and his Fairview boys, but, it's hard to put somebody on this list that didn't play the majority of their, of their senior season here, which is also why Dom Nichols, because I'm pretty sure he plays safety, isn't on here as well and probably won't be on here. That is probably a breakdown we'll do, probably for fun at another time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll do breakdowns on both of those guys, honestly.
Yeah, because, Grant Page, he was one of those guys preseason who was battling for that top spot with this guy right here, and it was going to be close regardless. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and announce the number 1 safety in Colorado here in the class of 2022. And that is Palmer Ridge's very own Anthony Costanzo, the 6'3", 205-pound safety. This guy is an absolute beast. Like I said, we knew about him before. He's been an athlete. He's been doing top athlete stuff. He's probably, currently as of right now, he's probably one of the best athletes in Colorado, period. At 6'3", 205, he does a lot of great things. He has very good speed, borderline elite speed, agility, explosiveness. He's tall. He could do all that stuff. He could hit pretty hard as well when he wants to as well. Anthony Costanzo is the definition of D1 athlete. He's a dog, straight up, and he's one of the reasons why Palmer Ridge did have as much success as they did. It's athletes like Costanzo here who are just special and were able to elevate that program. Obviously he lost state last year, against Loveland, but the 2 years before he did contribute a little bit. I think his freshman year he was in there sparingly as more of a receiver. His sophomore year he was in there as a starter. So there you go, Anthony Costanzo. He definitely is going to leave a legacy here when all is said and done, and maybe get another state championship on his way out. Like I said, we're recording this on November 16th, so who knows there. But there you go. I mean, that's probably his biggest strength. He's just a fantastic athlete, probably one of the most elite athletes here in the state. Ironically, built a lot like Grant Page at 6'3", 205, and a lot of the same measurables there as far as speed, agility goes. Like, it's pretty interesting how identical of an athlete they both are, to be honest with you. So, yeah, but moving on, though, the other thing that makes him like one of the best in the state, obviously, is that he just has very good ball skills, borderline elite ball skills, in my opinion. At receiver, he is pretty exceptional. Honestly, if he wasn't already number one on this list, he probably would have been number one, the number one ranked receiver here in Colorado, because he just has that ability to sky for the ball, and that helps out on defense because he's able to get a lot of picks and all that. He's able to catch from multiple different angles, from awkward angles, off of tips and all that. Like, he's there and he makes it happen. And like I said, he's somebody who has elite like athleticism. That agility is something you gotta keep an eye on because he has very quick feet and he changes directions very, very well. You do not see that every day out of a 6'3", 205-pound safety. So there you go. And then lastly, what I have to say here, he's just excellent in zone. He plays it like he's the natural out there. Like, it's not even that hard. He just has an excellent ability to play zone. He reads the quarterback's eyes very well. Obviously, he undercuts receivers and makes turnovers happen. That's just something, that's a given when you are the number one receiver in the state. But he just does that, and he is he just makes it look easy. He's obviously very good at it, and he just makes it look easy. So there you go. And then lastly, the last thing I just want to mention here before I hand it off to Kodey, he just has the ability to be an excellent QB spy as well. In my opinion, that's a pretty underrated trait. But low-key, there have been times where they put him at quarterback spy, and he just does a very good job, just forcing turnovers and making stuff happen. So there you go. Kodey, do you have more to add on to why Anthony Costanzo is our number one safety this year?
Well, I mean, for starters, it's hard to ignore the number 9 recruit in the entire state. I mean, he's been recognized and praised, rightfully so, and it's going to continue whenever he continues his journey, and we'll elaborate more on that later. But I mean, some things that I love is just, oh my gosh, he's just so physical in every aspect of the game. And there's film of him where he's playing linebacker in his sophomore and junior year, and he carries, you have to realize he's going to carry those skills to that safety position, and so he has block shedding ability and really strong hands for block shedding. He can play some man coverage, and he has really strong hands for press. Like, there are just some plays, I think it's in his junior year, he's lined up on somebody in the slot, and he just gives them a really good shove, and that's the end of their play, basically. There's just not enough time for them to recover and to become a receiving option for the quarterback again. And on top of that, you can see the strong hands kind of also when he's on the receiving end, and if he's blocking for other screens, there's some instances where, he's blocking on like a bubble screen, and, he just moves his guy with relative ease because he understands leverage and just hand strength so well. And also, he's just a really well balanced and body controlled kind of player. That's what allows him to make some of these interceptions and highlight plays, that allows him to play all of these different coverages and cover sideline to sideline, that allows him to come up and play the run really well and just be an electrifying player in every facet of the game. And, versatility, once again, being our prized possession here in this safety ranking, I'd have to say he's easily the most versatile and athletic safety on this list, and the reason that he finds himself at number 1. Now, Simon, do you mind if I try and point out some areas of improvement that are pretty nits?
Did you want to talk stats real quick?
Oh, yes, I actually did want to talk stats. Thank you. I was just used to you talking stats.
That's okay. And I could do notable games after, but yeah.
Yeah. So as far as stats go, he's been on the field since he was a sophomore, as I briefly mentioned. And in those 3 years, he's racked up 95 total tackles, including 39 his senior year and 34. I should mention that in these 3 seasons, he's only played 24 games, because there was the COVID year last year, and then you had to earn some more through playoffs, and sometimes he would get more snaps than others. So this year, is definitely, I think, the year to judge him most off of. And so he picked up a handful of tackles, but really it's his 8 interceptions in these past 3 seasons that are just eye-popping, and his ability to take any of these to the house, as well as, he's racked up 4 pass deflections this year. And last year he caused a fumble as well as blocking a field goal. So, he's an asset, obviously, on special teams for, any program that's lucky to have him. And yeah, on the offensive side of the ball, he's scored a lot of touchdowns. He's actually scored 29 touchdowns in his 4 years at Palmer Ridge, which is absurd. Simon, you want to talk about some, notable performances that some of these stats may be derived from?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about his senior season ones. Obviously, last year, even during the COVID year, he had a very good season at receiver and at safety. But this year, he had a good one as well, being kind of like the leader of this squad. I think that was pretty much, at least that was the vibe I was getting, that Costanzo here was the leader of not just this defense, but, this offense as well. Obviously you have the Monument Moving Company. They're leaders in their own right on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively they were losing kind of a lot of players here, including, Saxon Wright at linebacker, and then their defensive end, I think it's Cam Jones, I want to say. So there you go. And Costanzo, he was one of the, vets that was left when they all graduated. And so this year, he had some very nice games, notably against Pueblo West at the beginning of the season, by the way, where they just absolutely thrashed them in this game. In this game, he only had 4 total tackles, but he had 3 interceptions, and all of them were pretty good. One of them, well, I should say 2 of them. 2 of them, he just read the quarterback size perfectly. He was playing that quarterback spy role, and he just read the quarterback size and then just naturally went for the ball both times and picked it off. And obviously that contributed to that blowout. They would play Pueblo West at the time of this recording last week, and that would go into double overtime, and obviously he had a role in winning that tough game as well. But this first one is obviously a pretty big deal here, being able to do it against a quality team with talent. And then against Ponderosa in their, was it 21 point or 21 point, 28 point comeback win?
21 point comeback?
21. Yeah.
So if any of our listeners are confused, go listen to the recap from that week where Mason had the lowdown on it. So
yeah. Regardless, they came back from down 3 scores. Costanzo, he had an interception and 4 tackles in that Ponderosa game. And so, he's had some nice games throughout the season, even though teams know who he is. I'm sure they're not throwing to this dude on purpose and trying to test him out. They know what he's about. He's still out here making plays. And those are only his defensive stats. Offensively this year, he also had 561 receiving yards and 12 receiving touchdowns. So there you go. But Kodey, do you want to talk about some areas of improvement here for Costanzo, whatever we could find?
I mean, the only thing that I could kind of gather is sometimes he waits for the running back to get to him in the run game rather than going to the run play. And that doesn't even happen all the time. I'd say it's probably like a 40-60 thing where 40% of the time he waits, 60% of the time he goes and gets it. Not too much to not like here. Simon, was there anything that you found that you think should be worth mentioning? Maybe more man coverage? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe more man coverage. I mean, he's pretty good in that just because he's a natural athlete. But I'd like to see him master, I guess, the skill side of it. Like, be just that dude that won't allow any catches, because he has that size at 6'3", 205, and the athleticism. If he could get down jamming receivers more often all over the field and harassing them at the line and then still making plays, that'll be big. So basically, I'm just asking him to be an elite corner at that point. At this point, which I'm not going to really emphasize on. I think the thing that I saw that was maybe the most alarming thing here was that, his tackling fundamentals could be a little bit more consistent. He hits hard, no doubt about it, but there are a lot of times he just doesn't wrap up, and wrapping up is important. There was one play, I want to say, on his senior highlight reel, just looking over that and looking over some games where, he hit the guy pretty hard, but he did I don't know, he did that thing where, he did a little skip forward, and then the momentum, allowed him to fall down. But there's going to be better athletes on the next level who, if they get hit like that and they're not wrapped up and that doesn't trip them up more than just the initial hit, then they're going to break it and they're going to put their hand on the ground and then run for 20 or 30 yards or whatever. So I would just say be more consistent there, but that's nitpicking really. So that's it. Do you want to talk outlook here?
Well,
do you want to let me talk about it?
I'll let you talk about it. I just want to mention that there is going to be more talent in the Mountain West Conference if you want to talk about which team he'll be playing for, which university.
Yeah, so Costanzo actually went ahead and committed before the season. I don't think it was in the summer. I feel like it was in the spring almost, because I remember when it happened, or I thought I did. But he is going to play for UNLV. What was that? Were you laughing?
Yeah, because you were like, I remember it. Well, I thought I remembered it. But anyways, continue talking about UNLV here.
Yeah, so Costanzo, he will be playing for UNLV. That's the University of Nevada at Las Vegas, which is really, honestly, with NIL, that's probably the move. Not going to lie, and I think when athletes see Costanzo go to UNLV, they're like, hey, I wouldn't mind living for free in Las Vegas for 4 years. That's kind of cool, and then having all those opportunities and whatnot, you can make some bank is all I'm going to say there without even stepping foot. But, my God, I think it would be a really fun college to be at personally. And UNLV, they have always been kind of a solid school as well. They've gotten recruits, they've stealed some. And honestly, with NIL, UNLV is just one of those schools that are just going to benefit from it, because they are able to allow their kids to accept money from businesses and, all of those NIL deals over there. And being in Vegas, where there's a million business opportunities, and that's pretty big, The boring school would be going to University of Nevada, which is not in Vegas, and I think it's in Reno, actually. And I nothing against Reno, but it's obviously not Vegas.
Is Reno the capital of Nevada?
I mean, does it matter outside of it being important politically?
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying. So with that being said, I think honestly over at UNLV he could probably get some snaps as a true freshman, and that could be sensational because, like I said, Anthony Costanzo, he is special. He is definitely special. UNLV, they are getting an absolute steal here. And so this could be maybe the move here for a lot of young athletes, not just here in Colorado, but around the nation. So, and I'm sure, he would say that as well. But Kodey, what do you think about that move and my prediction here?
You got to love the athlete that Costanzo is. I think that we see a situation where, we see him on the field. I mean, say Oladipo had some opportunities this past year at Boise State. And, I'd like to think that Costanzo is on that level of Oladipo as far as just being a freak athlete who's going to help his team out in any way, shape, or form possible. And I'm pretty sure both these guys are both these guys Team Full Gorilla guys? Costanzo and Oladipo, that is?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that they know each other and they're kind of close. So I'd love to see them potentially compete against one another and have a little bit of a competition, in Anthony's first year here, like who can get more tackles or who can get more interceptions. That'd be pretty fun to keep track of. But yeah, I definitely see Costanzo has a pretty good chance of getting on the field this first year. And, if he doesn't, for sure, second year. I don't think he's a guy that you let collect too much dust here on this roster, on any roster, really. And that includes, I think he could have been a Power 5 guy as well. So, I think that you find yourself in this Mountain West Conference and you're UNLV and you landed a 3-star top 10 recruit out of Colorado and Anthony, that you got to be happy with it. And you got to use it against the Colorado teams in the Mountain West that didn't quite get him. So,
yeah, UNC should schedule UNLV.
yeah,
That would not be a bad matchup on paper, but you're right. Anyways, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you got a stud like that, you might as well play him right away, especially if you're UNLV. I think, they could get some hype out of this one. And this is no disrespect to the roster or anything, by the way, but I mean, he's a great athlete, and honestly, excuse me, if he makes mistakes as a true freshman, then just imagine what he'll be his senior or junior year. It's not a bad thing just getting a good athlete out there and, letting him just figure it out, and helping him figure it out, not just letting him, but helping him figure it out, coaching him up until he's just an absolute monster, his junior and senior year, maybe even sophomore year,
Yeah. NFL guy?
So, Costanzo?
Yep.
Yeah, he's built like it at 6'3", 200. Honestly, for Anthony here, I'm just going to throw this out there as well because I could see it happening. He could potentially play linebacker as well. Maybe get to 220, 230 here, be in that range and be pretty elite, not going to lie. I think if he was to do that, a path to the NFL would be, pretty interesting. Not that he can't make it there as a safety, but I think that's just another path for him as well, playing linebacker. I think he could be very successful there, honestly, just with the skill set he has compared to, most inside linebackers, or outside.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But,
so there you go. But
to recap,
you got it.
Number 5. Andrew Hale out of Valor Christian High School, who has offers from Idaho, Wyoming, and at least looks from CU. At number 4 for our safety list in Colorado, oh my gosh, Cash Cheeks out of Mesa Ridge down in Colorado Springs, who has an offer from CSU Pueblo, as well as some looks from BYU and CU. Number 3, Malik Singleton, the safety out of Grandview High School in that Centennial League, who is committed to Wyoming. Number 2, Bryce Johnson, who is playing out of Lutheran High School and committed to CSU. And number 1 safety of the class of 2022, Anthony Costanzo out of Palmer Ridge High School, playing or committed to UNLV. Wow, the Mountain West kind of did a pretty good job for the Colorado top safeties. How about that?
Colorado Springs did a pretty good job at safety.
Colorado Springs did There's 3 in the Denver metro area, bruh.
Yeah, bro, but Denver's a major city in America.
Anyways.
Hey, UNLV, offer cash as well. That'd be lit, not gonna lie.
Oh, you gotta offer cash.
Yeah, you might as well. No, okay, no, not you might as well. Obviously, he's a beast. I'm cutting that out. He's a beast. But yeah, offer cash.
Ooh. Offer cash to Playmakers Corner. Anyways.
So with that being said, that will wrap up this top 5 seniors list here. Thank you so much for rocking with us, giving us support throughout this season and in this OG series where we basically rank seniors here in Colorado at every position. Remember, this series will take place on Fridays, prime time. I don't know if that's right, but Fridays, at least to us, feels like prime time there. And then on Tuesdays / Mondays or Wednesdays or whatever, you'll have our recaps. And yeah, so I have been one of your co-hosts, Simon Villanos. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead and show us some love on our social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. And then if you are listening to this on a major streaming platform, which I assume you are, unless you're on our website, go ahead and give us a good rating and leave a review. We appreciate all the good ones for sure. And, you know, some constructive criticism if you have it, but keyword being constructive there, not just criticism. So there you go. But I have been one of your co-hosts, Simon Villanos, a.k.a. Coach V.
And I'm the other co-host, Kodey Stoffer. We struggled through this episode, so y'all better enjoy it. I'm not taking any constructive criticism. We were grinding on this one. My brain is mush.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna tell the listeners, I recorded this while I had COVID. All right, so
I did not have
COVID on my name.
Yeah.
We're recording this for remote, by the way. We're not being cringe. But anyways, y'all have a good one. Until our recap, catch ya on the flip.